The year was 1839. The Atlantic Ocean was quiet that night, except for the groan of a ship called La Amistad. It sailed under a Spanish flag, its name meaning friendship. But below its deck there was no friendship, only chains. Inside the hold more than 53 Africans lay bound in darkness. They were Mende people from Sierra Leone, farmers, hunters, mothers and sons, stolen from their homeland and sold into slavery in Havana, Cuba. The air was thick with fear and salt. Every wave that struck the ship whispered the same word in their hearts: freedom. Among them was a man whose eyes burned like coals in the night, Sengbe Pieh, later known as Joseph Cinqué. Once a farmer, now a prisoner, he refused to let despair break him. He studied every sound of the ship, every footstep of the guards. He was waiting, watching, planning. Weeks passed on the open sea. The captives were beaten, starved, and mocked by the crew. But in silence they communicated, with looks, with nods, with courage. One night the ship rocked in a summer storm. Thunder rolled across the waves like the drums of ancestors, calling their sons to rise. Cinqué whispered to the others in Mende, "We may die, but we will die as free men." He found a small nail in the wooden planks and used it to pick his chains. The metal scraped, slow and sharp, until the final click of freedom. One by one, he released others. When the time came, they struck. With machetes taken from the deck, they stormed the upper level, the ship filled with shouts, thunder, and the clash of iron. The captives overpowered the crew, killing the captain and cook. 2 sailors survived, forced to steer the ship back toward Africa, but the sailors deceived them. By day they sailed east, as ordered. By night they quietly turned north toward the coast of the United States. For 63 long days, La Amistad drifted aimlessly. The Africans ran out of food and water. The ocean gave them no mercy, yet their spirit did not die. When the ship finally neared land, it wasn't the coast of Africa, it was Long Island, New York. American naval officers spotted the battered vessel. Thinking it a pirate ship, they seized it and arrested everyone on board. Once again, the Mende people were chained, this time by new captors who did not understand their words or their struggle. Newspapers across the nation screamed the same headline, "Mutiny on the Amistad." To the world, they were criminals, but to themselves, they were free men defending their right to live. The Africans were thrown into prison in New Haven, Connecticut. They didn't speak English, and none could explain who they were or why they had fought. Rumors spread fast. Some said they were savages, others said they were heroes. Then came the abolitionists, American men and women who believed slavery was a sin. They visited the captives, learned their language, and began to tell their story to the world. A legal battle began. The Spanish government demanded the Africans be returned as property. American slaveholders saw an opportunity to profit, but the abolitionists stood firm. These were free people kidnapped from their homeland. The case climbed from local courts to the United States Supreme Court. In the courtroom, the question echoed, were these men property or people? When the trial began, the Africans sat silently in the courtroom, their faces calm but their eyes unyielding. Witnesses testified about the horrors of the slave trade. Interpreters helped the captives share their story. And then, when called upon to speak, Cinqué rose. He stood tall, his chains clinking softly, and said in broken English words that shook the room, "Give us free." Those 3 words tore through the silence like lightning. They were not just a plea, they were a declaration, a cry that carried the voices of millions who had been silenced by chains. The court was no longer about one ship, it was about the soul of a nation. On March 9, 1841, the U.S. Supreme Court delivered its judgment. Led by former President John Quincy Adams, who defended the Africans, the court ruled that they had been kidnapped and had every right to fight for their freedom. The courtroom erupted. Tears, shouts, and prayers filled the air. For the first time in American history, enslaved Africans had defeated their captors in court. The Mende captives were declared free. 2 years after their capture, Cinqué and the others set sail for home. As the ship left the harbor, they stood on deck, gazing at the waves, those same waves that once tried to bury them. They had crossed the Atlantic in chains and returned as symbols of freedom. When they reached Sierra Leone, they walked the same soil from which they had been stolen. Some reunited with family, others found their villages gone, destroyed by the slave trade, but their spirit endured. The story of La Amistad spread across Africa, the Americas, and Europe, proof that even in bondage, the human will can rise like the tide. The Amistad Rebellion was more than a revolt, it was a message from history. Freedom is not granted, it is claimed. Cinqué and his brothers refused to accept injustice. They turned a ship meant to deliver slaves into a vessel of resistance. Their courage echoed through generations, inspiring freedom movements from Haiti to Harlem, from Africa to the Caribbean. They remind us that no matter how dark the ocean, hope is a current that cannot be drowned. Today, their names still sail through history as a testament to Africa's unbreakable spirit. Subscribe to Journey Through Africa to honor the courage of those who fought back and discover more stories of strength, resilience, and legacy.